He that. Right.
I don't know whether he knew the consequences. That was a possibility. That was a possibility.
Man
But
had to start it, he started to
This is not like today's test tube babies you're talking about. You're going to start making babies.
Many branched are the thoughts of the irresolute.
Yeah, but the consequences are both ways, right? Focus on the consequences that you know. If you're not built in the other way, that's the whole point. Yeah.
Alright, we're moving.
Yeah.
If he has built it, maybe Japan would have killed the whole world.
No, the war was already over when they bombed, so there was nothing. But he had to build it all the same. Alright, we're rolling into another topic, very interesting. And okay, I'm going to attempt singing this. Ready for it?
ready to tolerate, yes.
Okay, we're pleased already. Yeah.
The high school.
You don't have the audio.
You want me to sing?
No, you want to sing it? Yes, perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Everybody can, we can all sing it.
Okay, we'll all sing together.
Yeah.
Kailash is looking for a chance.
I will join in.
Yeah, you can repeat after.
Yeah.
Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate yatrapatamaham vande paramanandam. So that's one of the.
One more. I bow down to Sri Krishna, the source of all joy, whose compassion brings speech from the lips of the dumb and carries the lame over mountains.
I think one more foot.
One more. I'll help her.
Please. Make it 2 feet. 2 feet to be sure.
Chair down.
But then this won't reach all the way.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
You want this table near you?
No, that's fine. So the mute can talk. Let's see.
Did you want this?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. What is? I think we already found Waldo. So
We're done with Waldo. We're done with this.
yeah. So we'll see how Waldo flowed through. How did Waldo come about then? It all started with Shah Jahan, the Mughal emperor, his son, Darushikov. He translated Bhagavad Gita and many of the Upanishads also into Persian language. And he was executed for that, by the way. You would expect that. And his contribution was the source of Bhagavad Gita reaching the shores of America and to Emerson and to Thoreau and all that Gaurav just talked about. So from Persian language, it came into Latin, and from there it was translated into English by Wilkins in the beginning, and then of course many versions came about. And this Gita is the one that shaped Mahatma Gandhi. It shaped Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and of course Vivekananda, of course Subhash Chandra Bose. From there, the whole Indian movement. Somebody was asking, how did that happen? There is no, Waldo is everywhere there, so we cannot pinpoint exactly. And then we have Rabindranath Tagore being influenced, and Swami Vivekananda from the Thakur, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Not only that, Bhagavad Gita was adored by none other than Einstein. And Aldous Huxley, Oppenheimer, just we heard that, Schopenhauer from Germany, many of the scholars from Germany were influenced by Bhagavad Gita. It became the lead kindly light, as Tagore puts it. What impresses Bhagavad Gita? Let's go to that. Let's come up with more ideas. What impresses Bhagavad Gita?
Same slide? Or
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So what impresses world to take up Bhagavad Gita? Not what impresses Bhagavad Gita. Sorry. What impresses people? to take up Bhagavad Gita and study. Why? So many physicists, scholars, scientists, philosophers, you name it. It's not people from one field. Literature, freedom fighters.
Very practical.
Profound.
Good, practical. Profound, what?
In comparison to any other literature.
Okay, it's profound in its
It
philosophy.
resolves the analysis paralysis, basically. It just tells you,
Direct, yeah.
And clarity.
The clarity, yes, very good.
Simplicity, clarity.
Simplicity.
Counseling. In a way,
It's a great counseling text, wonderful.
You know yourself, who you are.
Yeah, it talks about yourself,
About
talks
self.
about yourself. Very good. Next slide.
Above all, there is one thing in it which
Yeah.
has nothing to do with religion. It doesn't talk of religion.
Very good point.
Absolutely.
It's
In fact, that
dogma
is the
free.
reason that it is like
Yeah.
for its own writing. It has nothing to do with religion. It is saying this is the way a human being should live. Period.
That's it. It's perfect.
And that's the best of it.
Human Q&A.
If it had talked of religion, it would be shattered.
Yeah,
People would have thrown it aside.
very good. Very good.
That is the most important part of it. It
Yeah.
sets out a series of actions one should take in life in order to improve oneself.
Excellent.
But Mangalaji,
That's it.
Mangalaji has a point. Okay.
And at the end,
There is no religion, other religions at the time, right?
there is no talk of religion in it. And it is
No,
comprehensive in every
religions
sense of the
we do
term.
not know because we were in India.
You see, the problem with religion is
No. We are
there is
talking
a
about.
right and there is a wrong.
Yeah.
There is nothing right and wrong in it.
Very good. Actually, there were other religions at that point. When
Yeah,
we are talking
definitely.
about
Yes.
19th century here.
Right.
It's religion
They're
as
talking
we
19th
understand
century.
it.
No, but when the Gita
Gita
was
was-
decided.
No, but
That's
it's
fine.
continued. It's
No, it is-
But only these people picked it up, that's what I'm saying, picked Gita up, they didn't pick any other,
We are talking why Gita.
like.
Okay.
But in a
Dogma
way,
free,
I
that's
think it's
it.
kind of interesting, I never thought about
There is no
it.
dogma in it.
Very ironical that the 200 years when the mutiny and all that happened, that we must have lost Gita. Like all the people they listed, like the West had to discover it for us to discover it back. Like even now, like I learned Sanskrit in UC Berkeley. So I think as Hindus and as we're sitting here, that is something that how so the 200 years when the English were there, Gita was always Gita has been with us for so many years, but not a single name has come like Jhansi Rani, all that. Like, I mean, this is just I just thought of it just looking at the list. It's remarkable, and just like us.
No,
like,
Gita
they're
has
discovering
been around,
the
right?
West too, right?
It has been around. It has been used all the time.
Not popularized.
But an instrument of change, instrument of profound
Sometimes
change.
revealed actually. Like example, Patanjali, 5,000 years back, he has given all the sutras and everything. Lord Buddha came after 2,500 years and he revealed everything.
All right,
So
let's
exactly
move.
same.
Let's move on. We have to. Remember, we are dancing around
I was
it.
going to play Bharat music.
Yeah. You will start playing Bharat
Just like that
music.
music.
We have to
This
move.
is a very good
The way Bharat rules work,
statement about the Gita. Dogma-free, multidimensional,
Yeah.
practical guide and a synthesizer of all thoughts.
Yeah.
That is the best.
if you want to hold up the Bharat at any time, the rules of the Bharat are you have to throw money at me.
So,
Otherwise, it
Gaurav,
keeps rolling.
you are the moderator while I'm talking. Yeah. All right, so then let's just look at some of these great leaders and what they have done with Gita and how Gita has influenced their lives, right? How did Gandhiji find Gita? Like the story that Manju was talking about. Alcott brothers,
A change?
the Russian brothers. Yeah. Next slide, sorry. They were reading Edwin Arnold's translation of Bhagavad Gita. And they go to Gandhiji and say, wait, he is an Indian guy, this is in England, and he says, all right, let's find out. Maybe he knows better because we are reading this translation, we are not understanding the Sanskrit terms that are being used inside. Let's go to this brown Indian man. And there he goes, clueless. He has never read Gita. He said, I felt ashamed as I had never read the divine, I had read the divine poem neither in Sanskrit nor in Gujarati. And then he says, after he started reading it, what is his comment? My young mind. He had read Sermon of Mounts, he had read Light of Asia, he had read all of those things, but not the Gita. When he started reading the Gita, he said, Then it tried to unify the teachings of Gita, the Light of Asia, and the Sermon on the Mount. So that is his. Then onwards, Bhagavad Gita became his reference manual. Gita is not a collection of do's and don'ts. It's not sectarian and non-dogmatic, he writes.
Primary thing.
Yeah. And he says beautifully, I confess to you that when doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and when I see not one ray of light on the horizon, I run to the Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me, and immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. That was his breath. Bhagavad Gita was his breath. And somebody said, it was Bhagavad Gita is the solace of my life and death. Was that Tharu?
There might be third one.
Yeah. Then, now we come to Swami Vivekananda. He says there are two shlokas that you have to remember. Everybody comes up with these things, by the way. So he says, he who sees the Supreme Lord dwelling alike in all beings, the imperishable in things that perish, he sees indeed. That's who he sees. That's who sees actually. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu. That's the shloka. Then he talks about one interesting shloka that people usually take it lightly. This is the second chapter. Klaibhyam asmagamah partha. Vivekananda is, he's a kshatriya, right? He has that kshatra feeling. So he loves that shloka. What is that shloka? Don't be impotent, you fool. That's the kind of shloka that is. The first thing that Krishna says to Arjuna when he starts saying, I don't want to fight the war, and he gives 100 excuses why he should not fight the war. The first thing, the second thing he says is Klaibhyam asmagamah partha. And he says, one gets all the merits of reading the entire Gita by reading this. Why? It's basically trying to just give you a big jolt and say, you cannot just hide in the name of spirituality also. That's what Arjuna was trying to do. You cannot just say, all right, I don't want to do this. By doing this, see, all these bad things can happen. We give excuses in life. We have many excuses in the name of ahimsa, for example. Even in Mahatma Gandhi also says this very beautifully. When somebody comes to him and says, look, my women were raped by these, Muslims. So why can't I go and kill them? And you are trying to practice ahimsa. He says, what were you doing when all this was happening? Ahimsa is not for the weak. It's for the strong. So it doesn't say you should not get up and fight. Gandhiji says this very beautifully. Ahimsa is not a tool where you just hide and find excuse in not fighting. And who can know it better than Gandhi, because he has read Gita and he takes Gita for his manual. And so we all have this interesting thing where we hide behind. No. When we have to get up and do that task, we have to do it. No excuse can, really save us like that. So that is the shloka that Swami Vivekananda has taken. And the other one he says, some of the things he says. Next slide. Gita is like a bouquet composed of beautiful flowers of spiritual truths collected from the Upanishads. The Gita is the gist of the Vedas. He says it's don't take it as Old Testament. It's the New Testament. Gita is like the New Testament, and Old Testament is the Vedas. The greatness of little things, that's what the Gita teaches. Bless the old book. Beautifully he says this. So, these two things, reconciliation of different parts of dharma and work without desire or attachment. These two things is the summary of Bhagavad Gita.